why don't we start with a nigun right here? Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya 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 la 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 la,
Let's turn to page 23 or 141. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. 5 lines up.
6 lines up.
6 lines up. All right, I should
the
have practiced
Hebrew.
that.
So put your finger, it's right over there in the middle of the paragraph. Mikolot ma'im rabim. All right. Mikolot ma'im rabim, adirim mishmereyam. Mikolot ma'im rabim, adirim mishmereyam. Adir v'marom Adonai, adir v'marom Adonai, adir v'marom Adonai, adir v'marom Adonai. Mikolot ma'im rabim, adirim mishmereyam. Mikolot ma'im rabim, adirim mishmereyam. Adir v'marom Adonai, adir v'marom Adonai, adir v'marom Adonai, adir v'marom Adonai.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
It's wonderful to be together. And I haven't gotten a chance to do this since we've gotten back together. So I would love to invite you to turn to someone near you and say Shabbat Shalom. Introduce yourself. If you don't know who they are or you can't remember their name, this is like a, no guilt moment.
Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. Good to see you.
It's good to be together. Let's welcome in Shabbat with the lighting of Shabbat candles. And tonight I'd like to invite the Rauschorger family. Diane and George are celebrating a milestone this week, actually today. You'll hear more about that in a minute. And their daughter Lisa and daughter-in-law Kayla to help us light Shabbat candles. You can find the blessing on page 2 or 120.
I let the girls do the lighting. They're steadier than I am.
No problem. You can go old school.
Yeah.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner, lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
And we lift up the cup of joy. You can find the blessing for Kiddush. We're going to start with Vayechulu on page 4 or 122.
Vayer vayboker yom hashishi, vaychulu hashamayim, v'haaretz v'chol tzva'am, vaychal Elohim bayom hashvi melachto asher asa, vayishbot bayom hashvi mikol melachto asher asa, vayvarach Elohim et yom hashvi, vaykadesh oto, ki vo Shabbat mikol melachto asher bara Elohim la'asot. Ya la 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 la. Ki vo Shabbat mikol melachto asher bara Elohim la'asot. Savri Rabotenu v'chazan shalanu v'mishpachtenu v'atenu l'chaim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu. Zikaron lemase v'reshit, ki hu yom tehila l'mikrae kodesh, zecher letziat Mitzrayim, ki banu acharta, ve'otanu kidashta, mikol Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh ha-Shabbat. L'chaim. Gonna have to teach us that one.
Not a problem.
All right, my friends, why don't you stay up here for just a minute? I'm gonna ask you to stand over here for just a moment. We want this lovely couple to come right here in the middle. So, we're celebrating a very special day. Can anyone, can you guess how many years this lovely couple have been married?
Don't tell.
All right, some of you know the answer. That's not fair. All right. Here we go. It was a dark and stormy night. I've always wanted to start that way, so I really appreciate the opportunity. The year 1957, 9. That's not what you told me? All right. 1959. The place, San Francisco. 21-year-old George Rauschberger was arguing with his mother. "It's too dangerous to drive all the way from San Francisco to Burlingame in this weather," she said. "Better to stay home." "But Mom," George answered, "how will I ever meet someone if I stay home?" George prevailed that night, and he and his friend headed to Burlingame for a BBG AZA dance. When they arrived at the dance, a pretty girl in red was taking the money at the entrance. She was 18-year-old Diane Levin. Diane often drove her friends to dances like these, but on this fateful night, she had a feeling she'd meet someone. So she got another friend to drive so that she'd be available for whatever the night held for her. It's very practical. Sure enough, George scanned the room, and not finding anyone as attractive as that pretty girl in red at the front, he came and asked her to dance. As they danced and talked, Diane was swept away by this smart, handsome, sophisticated young man. George drove her home, gave her a kiss, and asked for her number, though it took him a full 3 weeks before deciding to call Diane to ask her out again, which she has not let him live down. Fortunately, he did call. George and Diane were married on July 30th, 1961, at Bethel in San Mateo. Since then, Diane and George attended Cal Poly together, raised 2 wonderful children, Lisa and Misha, pursued careers and interests, and built a wonderful community of friends. And today they celebrate 60 years of marriage. When I asked them the secret to a long and happy marriage, George said, "We're a good team. We share almost everything. We settle arguments before we go to bed. We're just very comfortable together." And Diane said, "I agree." And she added, "George is very dependable and very caring. He can fix anything, so he's handy to have around the house." Both agreed that it was important to give each other the space to pursue their own careers and dreams, and so Diane was supportive while George built his business, Expo Instruments. And George was supportive when Diane went back to school to get a degree in library science. And he didn't even grumble when Diane was working at the Bethel Library every Sunday. She actually just retired after 30 years of being the Bethel librarian. Yes, you should get a hand for that. Absolutely. During the pandemic, Diane was afraid they'd kill each other, but it turns out that they grew even closer. They formed a 2-person book club, took lots of walks, and shared the responsibility of taking care of things around the house. They're looking forward to getting out more soon, eating in restaurants, traveling with their wonderful children, Lisa and her wife Kayla, and Misha, who's watching tonight from Washington. So on behalf of this congregation, it's my honor to offer you a blessing on this milestone anniversary. So come close. This part's shorter, don't worry. Mishaberach avotenu v'imotenu. May the one who blessed our ancestors before us bless you, Diane and George, as you celebrate 60 years of marriage. I know you can hardly believe it. May the years ahead bring you good health, good food, and good books. May you continue to delight in one another every day. May you continue to enjoy and appreciate the beautiful family you have created. And may you feel the love of this community, which offers you a hearty Siman Tov u'Mazel Tov.
1, 2, 3. Siman Tov u'Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Siman Tov, Siman Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Siman Tov, Siman Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Siman Tov, Yehelanu.
You guys can dance off.
Mazel Tov,
You can dance back to your
Siman
seats.
Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Siman Tov, Siman Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Siman Tov, Yehelanu. Yehelanu, Yehelanu, Alecho Yisrael. Yehelanu, Yehelanu, Alecho Yisrael. Yehelanu, Yehelanu, Alecho Yisrael. Yehelanu, Yehelanu, Alecho Yisrael.
We'll turn now to welcome another bride, the Shabbat bride, into our midst. If you guys would like to reenact your wedding, there's an aisle right here. If not, we'll just welcome in that Sabbath bride. You can turn to page 20 or 138 for Lecha Dodi. We'll do 1, 2, 5, and 9. turn to page 28 or 146 for the call to worship the Baruch Hu. Continue with our twilight prayer. The words roll into dark. If you're sitting here, we don't have our screen, so I'm going to assume you know it. If you don't, just keep singing Roll into Dark over and over and over again. Turn to page 32 or 150 as we offer these words of love. Everlasting love, you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai, our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. can be seated. I'd like to invite up Lydia Mitz, next week's bat mitzvah, to lead us in the words of V'ahavta, the words from Deuteronomy on page 36 or 154.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך. ושיננתם לפניך, ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. Great job, thank you. We turn to page 40 as we sing the song of liberation. If you want to think about something that you'd like to liberate yourself from this past week or the past month, you can think of it in your mind and then imagine it floating away. Let's sing together, page 40 or 158.
פדעת אדוני את יעקב, וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני, גאל ישראל.
We turn the page to 42 and 43, or 160, 161, as we sing Hashkivenu, let there be love.
Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Hashkivenu, Adonai Eloheinu. Hashkivenu, Leshalom. Ve'hamitenu, and Shovrenu L'chaim. Let salvation be to touch the Hashkivenu, Adonai Eloheinu. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms.
The people of Israel shall keep Shabbat, observing Shabbat throughout the ages as a covenant for all time. The Shamru is on page 44 or 162.
B'nai Israel, et ha-Shabbat la'asot, et ha-Shabbat l'dorotav, b'rivah
now turn to the Amidah, or standing prayer, which is on page 46 or 164. If you're able, please rise. When you're finished with your personal prayers, please be seated.
Adonai Sifatai Tiftach Ufi Yagid Tehilatecha Adonai Sifatai Tiftach Yagid Tehilatecha. Oh, eternal God, open my lips, that my mouth may declare your glory. Oh, eternal God, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your glory. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah. El HaGadol, HaGibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei HaKol, V'Zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, U'Mevi Geula Livnei V'neihem, Leman Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer u'Moshiach u'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, Michayei hakol atah Rav le'Hoshia. Morid hatal, Mechalkel chayim bechesed, Mechayei hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim verofeh cholim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emunato, Lishenei afar, Michamocha bal yevurot, Umido melach, Melech memit umechayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah l'chayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayei hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kadoshim b'chol yom yehalelucha selah. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh.
60 or 178.
Shalom Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Shalom Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Ki ata melech hador lechol hashalom. Ki ata melech hador lechol hashalom. Shalom Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Shalom Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. V'tov beinecha levadei et amecha Yisrael. V'chol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Shalom Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Tasim Le'olam. Tasim Le'olam.
Our thoughts turn now to those who are in need of healing, healing of body or spirit. We offer them our thoughts and prayers and also our commitment to do what we can to bring healing to them. Tonight we are especially keeping in mind David Ben-Ami, Ginny Anderson, Dr. Jerry Blum, Diane Denenberg, Lorraine Denenberg, Linder Derman, Mason Easley, Arlene Gilliland, Dorothy Huppert, Moritz Huppert, Marvin Jones, Marcia Kahn, Joan B. Carlin, Josephine LaRosa, Karen Lawrence, Wendy Levine, Eileen Peak, Peggy Pizzo, Harvey Rabin, David Baruch Ben Simona, Donna Spanger, Jay Strober, Jay Jackman, Myra Strober, and Renee Winnick. If there's someone else that you're praying for tonight, please share their names aloud with us. Page 253 or 371.
May the source of strength
It's my pleasure to invite up tonight's darshan, tonight's speaker, Donovan Yisrael. He is among many other things, he is the chair of our Racial Equity and Justice Committee. He's also taught at Beth Am and is an all-around fantastic person. Come on up, Donovan.
Shabbat Shalom. And Hine Matov, which for those of you who do not understand Hebrew, as I don't, it is translated loosely as, behold how good and pleasing it is to not be on Zoom. It's a loose translation. And we also welcome those who are joining us via streaming and technology tonight. The Parsha for this week is Ekev. This is the episode in Torah where Moses tells the Israelites that if they follow God's laws, the nations who now dwell across the Jordan River will not harm them. He reminds the people of the virtues of keeping God's commandments and says that the land of Israel will overflow with milk and honey if the people obey God's commandments and teach them to their children. I want to share a little bit with you now. When you have eaten your fill, give thanks to the Lord your God for the good land which he has given you. Take care lest you forget the Lord your God and fail to keep his commandments, his rules and his laws, which I enjoin upon you today. When you have eaten your fill and have built fine houses to live in, and your herds and flocks have multiplied, and your silver and gold have increased, and everything you own has prospered, beware lest your heart grow haughty, and you forget the Lord your God who freed you from the land of Egypt, the house of bondage, who led you through the great and terrible wilderness with its seraph, serpents, and scorpions, a parched land with no water in it, like California, who brought forth water for you from the flinty rock, who fed you in the wilderness with manna, which your fathers had never known, in order to test you by hardships, only to benefit you in the end. And you say to yourselves, my power and might of my own hand have won this wealth for me. I'll repeat that. My own power and the might of my own hand have won this wealth for me. Remember at that time that it is the Lord your God who gives you the power to get wealth in fulfillment of the covenant that God made on oath with your fathers, as is still the case. To me, this portion is saying that after we have availed ourselves of all the good stuff, that we should be wary of taking things for granted, taking God for granted. Ask yourselves, do I often believe that my own power and the might of my own hand have won the wealth that I have? Do we take full credit for what we have, or do we acknowledge that much, if not all, of what we have is due to the grace of God? British philosopher Alan Watts reminds us that the day of our birth is like waking up, never having gone to sleep. A miraculous gift. Beth Am member and a dear friend, Joel Orr, who I just realized because I read The Builder, is speaking in a few weeks, taught me that the word grace refers to unearned gifts from heaven. Grace, unearned gifts from heaven. When we acknowledge the grace of God and or our privilege and a bit of luck, we practice gratitude. Both grace and gratitude come from the Latin root gratis. We must remember that what we have was gifted to us, and that by no means do all people receive such gifts. By the way, the opposite of gratitude is entitlement or unacknowledged privilege. Maybe this is what was meant by beware lest your heart grow haughty and you forget the Lord your God. We are all worthy, but no one is entitled. I want to link these powerful messages to the work that we'll be doing together as part of Beth Am's Racial Equity and Justice initiatives. A few years ago, I had the honor of meeting and working alongside Dr. Harry Broad of blessed memory, a sociology professor of men's studies in Northern Iowa University, I believe, anti-sexual assault educator and author of the book, Superman is Jewish? About how many of our comic book heroes were shaped by the culture and traditions of their Jewish creators. I was delighted, he was speaking at Hillel, I believe, when I heard Dr. Broad share a fascinating perspective on the story of Passover, and that it is possibly one of the world's first graphic novels. Cool, right? And yet it got me wondering if while we are enjoying some lovely brisket and 4 glasses of kosher wine, by the way, arguably Passover is also one of the first drinking games, and reciting passages like, "We were once in bondage, slaves in Mitzrayim." I wonder when we say those things if we don't really feel the gravity, the lived reality of enslavement. I don't think we do. I don't think we can. We think of it like simply another Marvel comic or watching the animated musical Prince of Egypt, simply like it's the story in Frozen. A good story, but that's it. And I understand why we Jews with intergenerational trauma still flowing through us from the Shoah and other tragedies would not want to cognize or face the reality of enslavement in Egypt or in the United States of America. I will admit that I could not watch movies like Schindler's List I watched it the first time just a few years ago, decades after it came out, decades after I became Jewish myself. I couldn't watch it. And then George Floyd's murder was caught on camera. Graphic for sure, but no mistaking this for a graphic novel. And then I willed myself to watch 12 Years a Slave, disturbing and deeply painful. And after that, Ava DuVernay's 13th. And finally let the truth get through to my heart, which had been hardened like Pharaoh's. You see, for the most of my life, I told a story, despite being a person of color, of my immigrant parents lifting themselves up by their bootstraps as they immigrated to the U.S. in 1966 because my father was able to join the U.S. Navy in the Philippines. As the story goes, my father was underweight, which supports the bootstrapping narrative, by the way. And so he stuffed down a lot of bananas in an effort to make the 111-pound weight requirement for the Navy. I don't know if that works, by the way. Don't try that at home. I had always given my father sole credit and gratitude for these actions, much of which he deserves for sure, as his efforts paved the way for many dozens of my relatives to find homes and live a life here in America. And yet this immigrant narrative that is us saying, see, we did it, why can't you do it, pointing at other people of color or other groups in our country who have not been able to attain wealth and thrive. This is a problem. It was only in the wake of George Floyd's murder did I learn about the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1965. Did anybody learn about that in school? I didn't. Also known as the Hart-Celler Act, which opened the door for people with specialized skills to immigrate to the U.S. If you've ever wondered why so many nurses are Filipino, I think this has something to do with it. Also, accountants. My parents are accountants, and that was a way to get to the U.S., right? The Immigration Act of 65 had a lot to do with this. By the way, a major sidebar is that the Hart-Celler Act was partially motivated at least by the fact that the Nazis looked to U.S. governmental policy in order to shape their plans, their solutions, right? And yet I have been telling the story of how my family picked itself up by its bootstrap, which allowed me to go to a local university of high quality, meet my wife, buy a home, and have the life I have in the Bay Area. I presumed that my own power and that of my parents and the might of my own hand had won this wealth for me. Meanwhile, centuries beforehand, institutional racism is and was keeping black folks and others in cycles of violence, incarceration, depriving folks of basic rights and the ability to thrive. My family got here in the 60s and was immediately able to get military benefits, though not all Filipino servicemen did. State jobs with pensions, do you remember that word? Pensions with a P. And the ability to buy their first home by the early 70s, which put me and my brothers through school as a machine of earning, as you know. Do people, do houses appreciate and value in this neighborhood, by the way? I just don't, maybe you don't know about that. We have been privileged by a change. We had been privileged by a change in the law. Fast forward to the present. This past year, members of our Racial Equity and Justice Committee, some of you are here, some of you weren't on the committee, and you did great work today. Thank you. I see you. We want you back. Have worked hard to bring you a fruitful book discussion series on Isabel Wilkerson's foundational work, Caste. Read it. a number of film screenings and discussions, as well as guest speakers on issues related to race, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Our mission is to first help Beth Am to become a place that is welcoming and empowering to all people, regardless of their skin color, gender, identity, sexual orientation, ability, and on. After that, we seek to engage the world outside of Beth Am to heal from racism and to grow to be the country that is truly for all of us. But first, the work begins inside of each of us. If you feel like I do, that you and your family have eaten your fill and built fine houses to live in, and your herds and flocks, that's a metaphor, by the way, you don't have to have no flock, have multiplied, and your silver and gold have increased, and everything you own has prospered, then we invite you to get involved in our racial equity and justice initiatives this coming year. We have learned a lot this year, and we'll be announcing some changes to our committee's structure and initiatives, so look out for those. And we invite you to get involved. Please feel free to contact me at donovan@stanford.edu or Rabbi Weissman through email or after services. The Israelites were enslaved in Egypt for 430 years. Black people in this country have been subject to enslavement, Jim Crow, and systematic oppression for over 400 years. It is long past time for our country to face the truth. And so if you are ready to reckon, ready to be held to account, and be counted as part of our healing, as part of healing ourselves and our country and our world, please join us. Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you so much, Donovan. Yasher koach. We turn to page 282 or 586 and rise for Aleinu L'Shabeach. Means it's upon us. It's up to us. Whichever way you want.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'Adon hakol, לתת קדימה ליוצר בראשית, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד ארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינת עוזו בגובהי מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אין עוד. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
Page 287.
ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
Please be seated. We prepare for the prayer of memory. Please turn to page 290 or 594. It is a fearful thing to love what death can touch. A fearful thing to love, hope, dream, to be, and oh, to lose. A thing for fools this, and a holy thing to love. For your life has lived in me. Your laugh once lifted me. Your word was gift to me. To remember this brings a painful joy. 'Tis a human thing, love, a holy thing, to love what death has touched. As I say the name of your loved one, if you'd like to rise in their honor, please do. This week, the Beth Am community mourns the loss of Naomi Solomon.
mother of Glenn, mother-in-law of Lisa, grandmother of Toby and Samantha. We're observing Shloshim, the first 30 days of mourning, for Alvin Platt, Gerald Yaffe, Carol Whiteley, Elizaveta Lifshitz, Wilma Kane, and Cliff Smith. And we remember those whose yahrzeit, whose anniversary of death fall this week. Francis Abramson, Roy Adler, Joseph Alcabez, Catherine Alderman, Carl Irving Alper, Rivka Aviad, Isaac Eisenberg, Gloria Bernkoff, Lillian Banish, Natalie Beckett, Oleg Belov, Eleanor Besson, James Borowitz, Ruth Burke, Beverly Canali, Myrna Cohen, Samuel Cutler, Mitzi Deli, Donald Espizeth, Evelyn Gaillard, Henry Garfinkel, James Henry Gibson, William Gleason, George Goldstein, Jack Gordon, Carol Green, Alvin Greenfield, May Harrison, Albert Hirsch, Edward Hirschberg, Sylvia Hoffman, Misha Karen, Chaim Crevochet, Dora Kropp, George Lane, Morris Leifer, Howard Levin, Meyer Lewis, Joseph Latus, Ruth Marcus, Lawrence Markowitz, Sarah Mednikova, Gersh Usherov Mezeritsky, Dvoira Mezeritsky, Jane Michaels, Benjamin Modlin, Rosalind Grossman Morris, Marjorie Pervin Negrin, Marcia Plant, Pinchas Pudilov Resnick, Armando Quiros, Joe Rando, Evelyn Rotwine, George Sachs, Ada Schilling, Aviva Schultz, Pesa Shapiro, Sam Spall, Marion Schulman, Alice Siegel, Leonard Signer, Sally Stark, Mark Stern, Billy Sternberger, Murray Stopel, Naomi Taub, David Toffick, Matthew Taylor, Lillian Tregob, Rose Ehrman, Sora Weissman, Mark Weitzer, Shana Vexler, Flora Vogel, Edith Wachtel, and Don Wolfson. If there's someone else that you're missing tonight, please rise and share their names with us. Words of Kaddish are on page 294 or 598. Please rise. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, ve'alma divra chirute ve'amlich malchute, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chaye dechol beit Yisrael, v'agala v'izman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shemei rabbah mevorach le'olam u'lalmei almaya. Yitbarach, yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar, v'yitromam, v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar, v'yitaleh, v'yitalal, shemei dekudsha barichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, da'amiram be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'yimru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'yimeru amen. I want to call your attention to our tzedakah box, which is in the back, I believe, although I cannot actually see it at this moment. This month we are collecting for Live in Peace, a nonprofit based in East Palo Alto, whose mission is to empower youth and young adults to reclaim the vision for their future. It runs programs that provide students with academic skills, personal and professional development, artistic and cultural education, and access to a range of resources. Please give generously here or on our website, or you can send a check to the office. Please be generous. We close our service with a different version of Oseh Shalom. We can never pray for peace enough. Let's pray together.
Oseh Shalom, B'Rama. Oseh Shalom, B'Rama. Hu Yaseh Shalom. Hu Yaseh Shalom. Hu Yaseh Shalom. Aleinu.
Chad, Shaim, Shalosh, Arba.
May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. Oseh Shalom, B'Rama. Oseh Shalom, B'Rama. Hu Yaseh Shalom. Hu Yaseh Shalom. Hu Yaseh Shalom. Aleinu. Achad, shalom, shalom, tap. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Thank you, Russell. That was fantastic. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.